Mike, we're here to talk about Micron and its partnership with Syracuse University, more specifically the National Veterans Resource Center.
Sure.
So if you can just tell me how this partnership can help SU and the community moving forward with Micron.
Well, I think one of the things that if there's a competency that we've developed here at Syracuse University, and specifically in our Institute for Veterans and Military Families, which is basically the third floor of this building is our National Veterans Institute. It's around veterans employment. So we run a series of programs all over the United States. Matter of fact, on 68 military installations around the U.S., we run career training, career skilling, transition programs for folks getting out of the military to prepare them for the civilian world of work. And we do that in partnership with many of the nation's larger employers. So, for example, Boeing is a partner, Walmart is a partner, Lockheed is a partner. And I think what we see with Micron is an opportunity to create a similar partnership. The firm is committed to hiring veterans, even independent of a relationship with us. It's a big part of their strategy. They see veterans as being uniquely aligned with the work that they're going to do at this facility. And we become an enabler of that talent strategy for them.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that stuck out to me when Micron was talking about the people who they really wanted to reach when it comes to these good paying local jobs is veterans specifically, or people who were in the military who are in the military. They mentioned a certain skill that sometimes veterans and military service members have.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that for me a
Well,
little bit?
I think it's a host of things that you learn in military service that are uniquely relevant to, I think, what Micron's looking for. So, for example, attention to detail. You know, the idea of being able to focus even on the small things and ensure that you accomplish the job, whatever it is, exactly as it's meant to be accomplished. You know, modern military service is such that that young men and women, 18, 19-year-olds right out of high school, all of a sudden thrown into roles where they're exposed to very technical equipment and vocations, if you will. I mean, the young man that Micron has hired locally as their first employee is a perfect example. Savion Pollard, a Navy vet, was an electronics technician working on nuclear reactors. No college degree, enlisted right out of high school, but developed a very specific skill set. And now here as a student, leveraging his military service to pursue a degree in electrical engineering from the university. That's right in the sweet spot, if you will, of what Micron is looking for.
Mm-hmm. And that was something that I was going to ask you about, because I'm hoping to do a story with Savion to talk about his experience and how excited he is.
Yeah.
But how excited does it make you feel knowing that Micron chose someone from SU?
It was, it was phenomenal. That, I'll give you the backstory of I was actually meeting with the Micron Chief Human Resource Officer prior to the announcement, when this was all still secret, if you will. And we were talking about talent and the talent that could be available to them. And I, talking about veterans specifically, and I actually used Savion as an example. And I described to April Savion's background, what he's studying now. And when the conversation was over, she said, "You have his resume." So I found his resume and sent it off to April, and I think it was the next weekend I was up in the Dome for the NC State football game, SU-NC State, and I saw Savion up there. I said, "By the way, did anything happen from that?" And he said, "Yeah, I've been waiting to see you in person so I could tell you I got a job." I mean, that's how that whole thing happened. It was pretty cool.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I hope I get to meet him and talk to him, because that day when the president came, I was like, I need to find him. Because we were trying to find stories within, obviously, the announcement. And then unfortunately wasn't able to get him, but that's
Yeah,
just
I think a
great
lot of
story.
people were trying to get
I mean, when the president shouts you out, it's inevitable. But more about the programs
Sure.
and the opportunities. We
Sure.
hear a lot that, the partnerships that Micron has with Syracuse University and how that's going to impact them filling the jobs moving forward. But any tangible sort of ideas
Yeah,
right
so
now?
I think right now, what now that we're past all the announcements and the public celebration, it's time to do the work. And what that means for us in the context of our partnership with Micron is really beginning to understand exactly the skill set that they need and how we can do what higher education does. That is, build the education, the training pathways that ultimately provide the skills that, coming out of those pathways that Micron needs. The example I use, we have a partnership, for example, our institute with Boeing. Boeing wanted to create more opportunities for veterans in advanced aerospace manufacturing. So over the course of many months, the institute team here worked with Boeing to identify the specific skills they're looking for, the specific training required to certify or credential somebody in that particular space. We built the training program, implemented the training program for veterans, and it becomes then a pipeline of talent to Boeing that is uniquely curated, if you will, around the advanced aerospace manufacturing that they're looking for. I think conceptually the idea is to do a very similar thing with Micron.
So essentially you tailor what you're teaching the students here, programs, opportunities, things like that,
Yep,
to what they
specifically
need.
to their needs, yeah.
That's great. Have you heard from any students, people at the Veterans Resource Center who are excited about Micron?
I think everybody's very excited. I can't go to a meeting on this campus or in this community where the number one thing that folks want to talk about is Micron, which is great, because the reality is this won't be, and the county executive has said it, the mayor has said it. Now it's time for all of us to do the work. If we're going to realize as a community the potential that exists for us, and for all, and I want to stress, in an inclusive way, where everybody in this community can benefit from this unique opportunity, we have to do the work. It's not going to be Micron that comes in and necessarily sets the conditions for inclusive prosperity to come from this endeavor. It's going to be now to us. And how is it that we create the pipelines and the pathways for all members of our community to be elevated as a consequence of this? Because it is a myth that you need, for example, a college degree to work in this facility. As a matter of fact, I think, I don't know the exact numbers, but I don't even think it's 50% of all of the jobs that they'll be hiring for require a college degree, right? But how do we get those folks in the community that can benefit from these opportunities, the training that they need in order to be competitive and succeed?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of when you talk about veterans getting jobs, there's barriers there for sometimes veterans to get job opportunities, to get hired, to have companies want to hire them. Do you foresee that maybe being a challenge down the road?
I think, hopefully that's where our institute can be a partner to Micron and overcome those barriers. I mean, what you just teed up is absolutely the case. Many civilian HR managers can look at a military resume and they don't understand anything that they're looking at. They don't understand the military role, what an individual actually did. They can't interpret from a set of job descriptions that someone did in the military what that means in the context of their particular company. Those barriers are real, but I think that's where we've been doing this work for 15 years, and that's where we can be, I think, a valuable partner to Micron to help them make those translations, help them understand that just because somebody did this in the military doesn't mean that they don't have this other set of skills or were exposed to this other set of experiences that are uniquely relevant to what that company is trying to do.
Last question for you.
Sure.
You yourself are a veteran.
Yep.
So when Micron said that it's a priority for us to hire veterans and make sure that equal opportunity is given to military members, veterans, how did that make you feel?
I mean, obviously, it makes me feel good. You know, I think, but it also, I think it's also more than just a feel-good opportunity. You know, I think it's the right thing. You know, our national defense is supported by an all-volunteer military. You know, we got rid of a draft in the early 70s, and you know, the reality is, in order to sustain an all-volunteer military, all of society has a role to play to ensure that those who have served in the military, when they take the uniform off, you know, that there are pathways to whether it's higher education or jobs. You know, I would go so far as to argue it's a moral obligation of individuals and institutions to ensure that folks coming out of the military have, you know, not a hand out, but a hand up, if you will, and that the conditions are set for them to be able to go on and succeed in the context of the rest of their lives.
Great. Anything else?
Sounds good to me.